Hello, hello. So, as people are coming in, letting in a few people. Hi, Tura. Lovely to see you. Hey, Kathy. Excellent. The chat is working. I love that. Fantastic. And Louise, my middle name, well, one of my middle names is Louise.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
How nice to connect.
Actually, I'm going to log out and log back in. It looks like I've got some weird thing going on. A bunch of pluses are going all over the place. So let me log out and log back in. I apologize for that. I'll be right
All
back.
good. All good. Okay,
Thank you.
of course. All righty. And I am just shutting things down as well. Okay, I love this. So I know that there's quite a number of people who are going to watch the recording. So this is being recorded, and I want to make sure. And I also want to really respect your time. I'm going to dive in to sharing my screen. Let's see if it gives me the permission to do that. You know, I worked in tech for a very long time, and here we go. Fantastic. All righty. So let me just make sure I am pinned. All right. Fantastic. So everybody, hi and welcome so much. I'm so excited that you are here. I love talking about interest interviews. Today has been a wild day. So I am actually squatting in my son's bedroom because we ended up having to get some work done today unexpectedly. And I did not want to cancel this. About 50 people registered. I know a lot of people are going to be watching the recording due to obligations that they have. A lot of people are in spring break and time zones, right? So let's get going. So, first of all, this is the interest interviews, your simplest, fastest networking strategy. It's going to be about half. So, half of the time, I'm going to be talking about how to do this strategy, why to do it, what it is, right? Then I'm going to share very quickly how you can continue to go. Then I'm going to open it up to questions and answers. Okay. So if you are looking for short-term job, you want to shift your job. Maybe you're one of the 250,000 people worldwide who have been directly impacted by layoff. Maybe you're one of the millions and millions and millions of people who have been indirectly impacted and are looking around saying, hey, if performance, loyalty, seniority doesn't really matter in this contract, then I'd like to do something different. Maybe you're looking for midterm career growth. And maybe, because I got one person who said, can you use this to learn about hobbies? Can you learn this when you've moved? And I said, actually, yeah. So when I relocated from Germany into Colorado, this is one of the strategies that I use. So, yeah. So for all of that, you are in the right place. Welcome. So yesterday, I sent the link to the worksheet. Please make sure you have it. It was also in the hour reminder, and it should have also been in an email that just hit your inbox, just to make it sure it's at the top of your inbox. We all get so many emails every single day. You want to make sure that you have that. Just go ahead and link through and download it. You will not be able to work on it on the server. You need to download it locally. If you don't want to do that, I will be showing images. So if you're on your phone, you're in your car, whatever, I will be showing images of those worksheets. And you just want to make sure you have a little bit of paper and a pen, or, a memory that's much better than mine. Do try to close off as many distractions as you can, but we're all humans, right? So please, I understand if you need to do something else, and you're going to have the recording. Okay. Then, so who am I and why on earth am I talking to you about the interest interview? So some of you I've known for a while, and some of you I'm just getting to know, which is really exciting. I am a former tech executive. I lived in Germany for 13 years. I started as a secretary and I ended as a global senior director of comm and change. My career took me to over 25 countries, which is a pretty big deal because I grew up really poor and I grew up with a stutter and I grew up with a lot of different limitations as well as a lot of privileges. I am white. I do have a so-called pretty privilege. I was living in a country and in a world that really prioritizes native English speakers. And now I live in Colorado. I have been married for a long time to a German fella. I have two amazing neurodiverse kiddos, and I have a diva dog named Lakrit. It means licorice. It's my favorite candy. And we might hear him because, as I said, things are getting fixed in my house unexpectedly today, and he is very excited about barking at people. I've been coaching for a little bit over a decade, and I have been an independent coach for since 2019. All right. My clients are women all over the world. I do have a few men, but I do market to women all over the world who want to build the skill of bravery. We do that with my Build Your Brave framework. Interest interviews are one of the most important frameworks inside of that framework. Interest interviews. I actually was not raised in a community that had corporate connections or tech connections. So why is it that I have this amazing network all over the world? I had incredible career growth. So many of my jobs were actually created for me. When I went into consulting, I had the same situation. People would find ways for me to engage. And the answer is interest interviews. Okay. I was living in Germany and I was ready to grow, but I didn't know how. And I was extraordinarily, I'm just going to say lucky. I know I created it by doing a good job, but also this person came into my life in a very unexpected way. He took me to the side and he said, "You really don't know how to use connections." And I said, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And he really, over the next year, taught me step by step by step how to show up for a win-win, how to show up with an openness, a learning, a curiosity, and how to take care of those relationships over time. Now, at the time, they were called informational interviews. So if you Google and you want to go deeper into this, there's some incredible research out there. I have just found that when I talk about interest interviews for myself as well as for my clients, it really shows how we're going to show up, what the goal and the outcome of each individual conversation is, and how it is so effective. It's so simple, it's short and long term to reach a goal that you have established for yourself. This is what I used as well when I was moving from corporate into being an entrepreneur. I actually was highly resistant at the beginning, but as I did more and more interest interviews, just opened up like, this is what I'm ready for and this is what I would like to do. My clients consistently use this. For people who are new to me, I have a podcast called Celebrate Brave, and every single conversation, unprompted, my clients always talk about how important the interest interviews, networking, and relationship building is for them to actually succeed in their goal. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that later. All right. So there's a couple of things that I am working on. Oh, first I want to show you what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to start off with, where are you starting? We're going to have 3 minutes for you just to reflect on 3 questions. And we're going to have the chat open, so you can always pop something into the chat. I'm going to walk through what an interest interview actually is. Then why do they work? That slide is data heavy, but I'm not going to go through it all. I'm just going to put it up there. I'm going to hit some highlights, and I've got some resources for you to go further if you want to convince yourself even more. Why do they work, right? It's so important, that data piece. And then we're going to go through the 3 hows. So what is not going to happen in this conversation is I'm going to pitch you something, but not show you how to do it. Like, I get really granular. And then Q's and A's. So really, the one thing I would say about chat, please, is if you pose a question and depending on how busy the chat gets. I don't see it. If you could just copy and paste it, I never, ever, ever want you to feel ignored. And I'm not ignoring questions on purpose. If I'm not going to answer a question because it's personal, then I will just say I'm not going to answer that. All right. I am working on my just being a better human. So I'm really working on shifting my language from guys to y'all or everyone or folks. So I just ask for some grace there. If you do find any feedback for how I can be more inclusive, I'm really working on my ableism right now. I am super open to an email. Please feel free. It's Nicole@churchsteinbach.com. You can just hit reply to any email. This is an area of big growth for me. All right. I do live, and I just love this next one. I do live on the unceded lands of the Ute and Cheyenne people. I am a European American. My people come from Southwest Germany primarily, and then what is now Northern Ireland. So I really do want to honor and just acknowledge that I am living on their unceded land. I do choose to pay rent. If you are interested, there's this incredible program called native-land.ca. It is out of Canada, but it's fascinating to learn about all of these incredible societies out there. If you are staying on here, your name, your image, and your voice, should you speak, is being recorded. This recording is available to other people. Data protection and your privacy is important to me. If that is not comfortable for you for any way, shape, or form, go ahead and dial off. You will get this recording. All righty, let's go. Are we ready? Let's go. So where are you starting? Change is always like a GPS, and so is growth. So where are you starting is a really important part for you to identify your specific areas of where you're going to go to. So on that the second page of the worksheet, there are 3 questions. I have some content up there. This actually comes from the workbook that all of my clients experience. And I think it's like 150 pages at this point. I put that context up there for you. So my clients don't necessarily have that context, but I wanted you, because you're only getting a very small section of the holistic framework, for you to be able to take this and work with it moving forward. So I'm going to ask you to please, and you're welcome to use the chat, what do you currently believe about networking? Where are you starting? What do you want to believe about networking? And why are you open to learning about interest interviews? Again, if you'd like to share in the chat, I am going to be responding to the chat or quiet for the next 3 minutes because this is your starting point. Yeah, Lenny, like it's necessary, but it feels awkward. You know, I love interest interviews and it feels awkward. Right? Networking is important for growth and for learning. Absolutely. I love that as well. I came to networking thinking about how it can help me versus an exchange or an authentic connection. Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. You know, I'm the International Bravery Coach, and that is a really brave thing to acknowledge inside of how we've been trained to network. So I really want to just acknowledge that most of the time people show up to networking thing and it's like, well, what can I get out of this? Right? Versus like, hey, we can exchange with each other. This is interesting. Who are you? Who am I? And how can we connect? right? That isn't something that any of us like were toddlers and we thought, what can I go into this relationship to like take something from someone? We were concretely, and many people still are, concretely taught to go into situations with what can I get out of this? And that is not what an interest interview is. And that is exactly why I call them interest interviews versus the informational interview. I know it's important, but I feel some people are great at it, and I'm not one of them. I have a brother who does it naturally, but it always feels so forced. That is amazing. So I got a question about the introvert extrovert that I'm going to answer later as well. What I would offer to you is I've worked with the C-level of a lot of tech companies, and it looks so easy and graceful and natural and all of the things to them. But I've had conversations with them, when we were flying places or whatever, and they all of them said like, yeah, sometimes it's super awkward, or it takes a lot of my energy away from me, or I do not enjoy spending time with people, or can we please get some of those meetings off of my list? I want to get work done, right? So what I just want to share with you is maybe your brother does say it's totally natural. Maybe he's an extrovert who loves people. Or maybe he's like me and I love people and I'm a full extrovert. I get my energy from without myself. And I also am like, oh God, this feels awkward sometimes, right? Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I could acknowledge that for you. Yeah. Okay. And then the last message I'll respond because 3 minutes are over. I think of networking as somewhat terrifying, but it involves meeting new people and it's intimidating. Yeah. Yeah. I went to the Chamber of Commerce. I've worked in all these countries with all these people. And I went to my district Chamber of Commerce meeting and I was like shaking. So intimidating. I want to believe that it's something I can find a way to be comfortable with. I'm open to learning because I need to find a way to accomplish the goals I have for myself. And just applying to job is obviously not the way. Ding, ding, ding. I'm going to show some data later. And so let's just normalize it, right? It can be super intimidating. Yesterday, I was on a call with Anita B, which is an amazing organization for people in technology working towards equity. And, and I got off, and someone was like, gosh, that was so great. I was like, yeah, it was amazing. And I felt a little bit awkward because here I am with some of the best data scientists in the entire world. And, yeah, sure, I was an executive, I worked all these places, yada, yada, but I can't manipulate data. So let's just normalize that. Like we can feel awkward. And so what is going to help us actually move forward? So we know where we're starting from. Okay, we've normalized that. So let's just let the nervous system, right? Make sure that you're breathing into your belly, especially if you were just brave, right? Things are coming up for you, maybe memories of times you biffed it, or times that you showed up in a weird way, or someone was super rude to you when you asked a normal question, right? Make sure you're breathing into your belly. And let's just give ourselves a little bit of a body rest, nervous system rest, and let's just go into our heads, right? So, what is it? Here it is. It's a one on one, informal conversation that's based upon curiosity, right? Based upon learning, right? And my thing is in the way, it's based on openness. So it's one on one and it's informal, just a conversation. It's a conversation in which I highly, highly, highly recommend that you show up with curiosity and with connection. And that's it. I want to learn from this person. I want to hear their experience. I want to experience their energy, whatever the case may be. But notice what this isn't. It isn't an outcome. And I get a lead for a job, right? Or I get connected to so and so. That happens. I promise. And when I show you the stats will be like, yep, that happened. But when you're in this one-on-one conversation, a lot of the ways we can leave behind the it's not natural for me, it's intimidating, I'm an introvert, or or they're intimidating me, or oh my god, I have to make this work. is choosing to step into your curiosity, right? Choosing to step into your openness, choosing to step into your learning. I consistently hear from people of Anita B, who I offer this kind of information session to, as well as my clients, that as soon as they can shift into curiosity or learning, just doors start opening, windows start opening, walls start falling down. Now, these two people, they are in person. You can also do this virtually, and you'll see in the data, there's actually no statistical difference in the growth and in the connection when you're virtual. People want to help people. I really, 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 really want to stress this to you. Our brains, unless you are part of the less than 1% of the global population that's a sociopath or psychopath, your brain is literally wired for tribal behavior and connection. People want to help people. You want to help people. People want to help you. If you can practice that belief and look for proof out in the world, honestly, your entire life will change. You'll enjoy grocery shopping more. Ask me how I know. People want to talk about themselves and what they know. Really, just for a second, think about think about something you're passionate about. Like, I am so passionate about mindset change. I'm so passionate about trans rights. I'm so passionate about gun control, and I can talk about them with people who agree and disagree with me for extensive periods of time. And y'all listen, you ask me any questions about myself, and I really have to rein myself in, okay? People want to talk about their experiences, and they want to talk about what they know. Different people are going to want to talk about different periods, different cultures have different trust lines and intimacy lines, but people genuinely want to talk about themselves and what they know. And our brains are wired for interconnection. Okay. Last thing that I want to say about this is interest interviews. I learned so much from people who are currently in middle school, currently in high school, currently in college, as well as people who are in their 70s and 80s. You can learn from anyone. And I'm going to show you a very simple 2-column way to identify how you can look beyond these hierarchical, very capitalistic systems to discover what it is that you actually need to know and who you need to know to reach that goal that we talked about at the beginning. All right. Whew. So in our heads, okay, let's stay in our heads a little bit longer. I'm not going to go through all this data, but this is why they work. If you are here for short-term job search, listen, when you talk to people, you have 3 times more access to unlisted and unadvertised opportunities. 3 or 4 of the biggest career moves that I had were based on me having a series of interest interviews with people, and those people saying, we have to have her come over. Right? Like, she's got the skills, she shows curiosity, she's an amazing listener, whatever it was, right? People really do get access. Like, hey, positions are going live in June, they're going live in July, whatever the case may be. I also want to stress that 85% of job positions are filled with networking, not resumes. Okay. And then I want to go over to midterm career growth, because for short-term growth, we've got that piece. But for midterm, referrals are the source of 40% of hires. It's almost half. And yet, only 7% of applicants come in over referrals. For midterm career growth or even short-term career growth or job search, networking is your bud, okay? Particularly should you have an intersectional identity, whether it is race, nationality, first, second languages, religion, sexual orientation, your class, right? For me, it was a lot about class. You are 5 times more likely to see growth in your career. 5 times. I don't know about you, but I'm doing anything for 5 times. Okay. And 82% of people who've been promoted in the last 24 months, they participated in networking at least once per month. And then the very last bullet point, I'm really selling this, is that 100% of C-level and senior leadership stated that networking was the key to their step into executive leadership. Now, what I want to say here, I don't think everybody's goal needs to be CEO. I turned down many roles that were managing director and VP level. It's just not the kind of work I want to do. So I'm not saying this needs to be your goal. What I am saying is that the people who get into the smallest range of hierarchical level, C-level, senior leadership, say that networking is the key. So imagine if you want to be a Scrum master who works across multiple time zones. Networking is going to make that so much easier. Network now, network always. The last piece, and the piece that most of us overlook, is that when you network, you have an 89% increase, or when the question is, how did this impact your self-concept? Did it go up or down? It went up. 89% of people who answered, and it was in the 20,000 for the study. The study was done by the World Bank Open Data. 89% said, yeah, it helps my self-confidence. 52% said it increased creative thinking, new approaches, strategies, and solutions. I am an entrepreneur because of interest interviews, right? And then lastly, 45% reported that it protected from ill-informed decisions. So how many people have accepted a role? I'm pointing my finger at me. Okay. How many people have accepted a role at a company and then discovered that the company was in a massive lawsuit or was actually quite toxic to your identity? Or you accepted a role and realized the micromanager and half the team has left in the last 3 months. Okay. 45% of people reported, yeah, that helped me avoid a bad decision. At one point in my career, I was paid 30,000 euro less than the weakest performer on the team. Imagine if I had just asked a few questions, right? So I hope that I have really stimulated your head here. And I've proved to you why you really want to be out there and giving you some really good data. Again, there's lots of resources down here. It's Forbes, it's Harvard, it's The Clutch, it's Marketing Experts, which that you can dive deep into that. Like, it's amazing. And the Muse, and then the World Bank of Open Data. That is all with the exception of Forbes. You can get the Harvard Business Review at libraries. The rest of them, to the best of my knowledge, are not behind paywalls. These are free resources that are out for you. I don't like forcing people to pay for things just because I shared with them. So let's get into the hows. First of all, does anyone have any questions about that contextual information about the data? And you're welcome to go off of mute as well. Okay, awesome. That's cool. So how do you set them up? Let's get into the how. Let's do this. All right. So the very first thing that you want to do is you want to start with planning. There is not a first column here, and there is not a second column here. Again, I added more context for you because you don't get the full workbook. There's just column A and column B. Or let's call them left column and right column. These do not map into each other. There are 2 columns for inspiration and insights. I'm going to give you 3 minutes just to start. This is just the start, okay? But the 2 questions, and you can start anywhere, you can pop back and forth between them. I just had a client session and we were popping between the 2. Who do you want to talk to? What do you want to learn? Okay. A lot of times people come to this worksheet with a lot of limiting, like, well, who will actually talk to me? Okay. That's a valid question. But first, we want to start off with, what do you actually want? So for example, if you are looking to, I'm going to try to take something that nobody wrote me an email about in the question. So let's a global relocation. Nobody wrote about that. So if you want to, and this is something that I've helped people with, I've done it a lot myself with as an individual, but then also as a parent, which is two totally different buckets of stew. Anywho, so let's say it's a global relocation, right? Who do I want to talk to? Well, I want to talk to somebody who lived in Germany. I want to talk to somebody who has a Colorado experience. I want to talk to somebody who has moved without knowing the language. I want to talk to somebody who, right, has done it with kids, right? This is the kind of thing that you want to say in who, right? Maybe you want to talk to a VP. Maybe you have a specific person that you see on LinkedIn or you see in the company or you met in a different organization or maybe from your university times if you did that. And you're like, oh, I really want to reconnect with Achim. I really want to reconnect with Young. I really want to connect with or talk to for the first time this amazing person online, Sarah. Whatever the case is, that's what you're doing there. And then the second thing is, what do I want to learn? Do I want to learn about taxes? Do I want to learn about the school district? Do I want to learn about the cost of living? Do I want to learn about the emotional difficulties of a global relocation? Do I want to learn about the timeline? What are the topics? Or you can even ask actual questions, write them down. But this is how you begin to set that up. And we're going to get even more specific. I know I'm a little bit over, so I'm going to leave just 2 minutes because I talked for over a minute. So go ahead and jot down a bunch of stuff and you're welcome to add into the chat. Yes, people in my industry. That is such a great way to do like, okay, who do I want to talk to? Right? Do you want to talk to senior people? Do you want to talk to people in your location? Maybe you don't want to work across time zones anymore. Do you want to talk to people in London? Do you want to talk to people who are on the cutting edge, mid-sized companies, large companies? There's a great way to just dive down even deeper. And LinkedIn is amazing for this. And I'm going to show you how to connect to people through LinkedIn as an example. Okay. All right. Again, this is just a starting point to get going. All right. So here's what I recommend. After you have a lot of these, right, spend some time on this. Jot it down over we have a weekend. Jot it down. I really recommend that you do 2 to 4 practice with people to build your skills, tell your story, and experience the flow, right? We started off with it can feel intimidating, it can feel awkward, it's not natural for me, right? I have positioned very strongly why it's important. I've positioned that people want to help you, that their brains are wired that way, and that people love to talk about them. But give yourself the chance to practice, like be kind to yourself. So here's how you make the request. I'm being like hyper specific here because I get this question and I see people do it badly as well. So you reach out to them directly. For the love of all that is holy, do not tag them publicly. Don't comment like, oh, I want to talk to you, right? You want to have a curious conversation of connection and learning, not call people out. I have people do this to me almost every week. They tag me on something. It's like, thank you for letting me know, but I feel like a demand versus a request. You want to create a hook for your connection. So for example, someone recently did this and it was chef's kiss. They're like, hey, I saw your post about, I had a podcast episode, How to Hire More Women Part 2. I saw that post. I watched the audiogram. I went and listened to your podcast, and I have a lot of questions when you talked about the data. Would you be open to talking to me about the data? Let me introduce myself. I'm a middle manager. I'm really working on my equity and inclusion. I've done these different courses and I'm trying to learn from different people. Would 30 minutes be appropriate? And then I didn't answer because I have been sick for the last 2 weeks. So the person then wrote me a follow-up that said, P.S. I'm not looking for a job and I'm not asking you to educate me for free if this is something you serve with. What? Yes. So as soon as I got healthier and I came across that in my inbox, I was like, absolutely. 45 minutes is probably good because I love to talk about myself and what I know. Okay. A really good example, right? Create a hook. Hey, I still remember when we met at that conference. Or I just, every time I get into a project management experience, I remember what it was like working with you. Hey, I saw that you have this different background, and I can tell that you're really passionate about construction. I'm currently on the job search. I have this experience. I would like to learn about this. Would you be open to connect live for about 30 minutes? I'd set everything up. I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking to exchange and to learn. Okay, what does the chat say? I get some of these DMs on LinkedIn, but I don't respond because I don't understand their intention. It seems strange. How can we not seem totally weird to others? Well, first of all, one of the best ways to practice interest interviews is to let other people interest interview. So maybe give a couple of people a shot. Sometimes especially when I was still a hiring manager and I got some of these, I would write back and I would say, so I want to be really clear. I'm not hiring. I do not have any available positions. But if you'd like to have a conversation about my experience and I can share information with you, I'd be happy to do that for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever. So that's one way, is to get more comfortable being the person interviewed, setting boundaries with people, right? And then the second one is create a hook. When you truly show up with curiosity, like, I'm really curious to talk to this person. They seem interesting, or they've had this experience with those companies, and I just want to learn from them. People can feel that. This is actually something specific for, and I love this question, by the way, thank you. This is something specific for interviews, right? If somebody shows up in desperation or weirdness or scarcity or fear, no matter how they present, and I have done so many interviews, online, in person, panel, 30 minutes, 2 days, I've done all the things. How you feel on the inside dictates how I feel in many cases, right? So someone can say, like, I loved what they had to say, but I don't know, there just seems to be something off. Okay, sometimes that's based on someone having a different identity. Let's be real. However, sometimes it's like, I don't know, I just felt a little off. And I will tell you, I have interviewed people who were going into like senior. I was just one of the people on the panel. And I've seen senior vice presidents, men and women, say, unfortunately, I never saw any non-binary trans to my knowledge. Men and women say, well, I'm so excited about this. I feel a little bit nervous. Just tell people how that's going down. Trust me, they want to know that you're a human. I hope that that answered the question, but if you have any more questions about that, like, how do I come off as not weird? This is how, right? Like, this entire communication is 9 sentences and it's a concrete request. All right, it says yes, thanks. Okay, I'm glad. Keep asking questions. All right, how do I run them? Here we go. Ready? And ask any questions at any point in time. I know that I'm a little over on the teaching. So you started. Thank you. Thank you for coming. If you think back to how I started this hour, I was like, thank you for coming. Right? Like, I genuinely am excited you're here. I love interest interview. I love helping people. Then you start off with your introduction or your personal story. So I reached out to you and you just tell them exactly what you said in the message, the text message, the email, the LinkedIn message, whatever. And then you say, so I am on the job search, or I am looking towards my career growth. And some of the things that make me really special is I sound like an American, but I think like a German. I love having fun, and I am so comfortable in uncomfortable conversations. And those of you that have worked with me that are on the line right now, like y'all are all laughing right now. So something that makes you special, right? I am a geek for Salesforce. I had someone say that recently. So great. Just tell them what makes you special, right? I have 9 kids. I had someone tell that to me once, and I was like, what? I'm going to hijack this conversation. 9 kids, that's incredible. Call me every day. As soon as you've said what makes you special, then you go into your initial question. So they don't have to do that awkward introduction thing from themselves because most of them didn't prepare. So it's like, and I feel really comfortable in uncomfortable conversations. So what I am so interested in is like, you have lived in 7 different countries. What inspired you to do that? See, curiosity, openness, learning. People will respond. They might be a little shaken, like, wow, this is a new sensation for me. And then they're going to start into a conversation. Please prepare lots of questions that interest you from that worksheet that we just did, right? But let it be a natural curiosity-based exchange. If they say something that interests me, be like, oh my gosh, tell me more. That sounds fascinating. I just had this conversation. I never thought about the fact that, yeah, there are data scientists who are doing all the calculations for architects and engineers now. I didn't know that. That's amazing, right? So let that go. Then the last 5 minutes, you really want to respect their time. Say thank you. How can I help you? Thank you so much. This was really helpful and I appreciate your time. How can I help you? Listen, 90% of the people are like, I don't know, but thank you. Okay. And other people will be like, you know what? I really want to learn more about living in Germany. I've thought about living in Europe. Great. I would love to set up additional time. Or this happens to me. You know, it sounds like coaching is your passion. I'd love to learn how you got into that. Awesome. I'll set up additional time or let me know when it works for you or whatever. And then the second question, and where you're going to be super awkward at the beginning. So please do practice with people. Okay. They've said something that really interests you. So you say, I'm really interested in learning even more about a technology, a process, a location, a hobby, whatever it is, but be specific. Is there one person you can connect me to so that I can have the same conversation with them? Not looking for a job from you. It will happen. I'm not looking for you to solve my problem. You're solving it in conversation. But this is how you continue to extend your network. And if you've shown up as a human and you have something specific, it is rare. It is truly rare that people can't think of someone in that specific topic. And if they can't, I really encourage my clients, and I do the same thing. In a couple of days, when you send through, you're like, thank you so much. I've been reflecting on our conversation. This was amazing. This was so helpful. Hey, do you have, like, did anybody come into mind? It's so rare that someone doesn't write back with, yeah, actually, talk to, talk to Roberto. Talk to Roberta, right? Oh my gosh, you've got to talk to Hebat, right? So this is how you run them concretely. You've got the exact steps. So how do you identify people? Bam, you've got it. How do you reach out? How do you get them set up? Bam, you've got it. How do you run them? This is how. This is 100% how, okay? All right. So I'm very open to questions. How do you keep going? So you can put your questions or your comments into the chat. I'm going to share how you keep going. So first of all, I have a podcast. It's called Celebrate Brave. And it goes into evaluation. The evaluation framework is an episode, as well as spider networking, because interest interviews are just one part. And you really want to make sure you go into spider networking. I also have on there a decision framework as well as a negotiation framework. So as you move forward, and if you're in a short-term period, it can happen very quickly. If you have a longer term, it can happen a little bit longer, but you really want to be looking at how am I going to make decisions and how am I going to be negotiating, okay? So do check that out. So that is a free resource and it's available to you right now, okay? The other option is I teach how to build the skill of bravery. This is what I do in my business. This is how I support my clients. Two foundational things. Number one, brave is a skill. It is not a personality trait. It's a skill. Okay. Just like networking, it's a skill. And you are already brave. What I really want to stress to you is I am not a naturally brave person. My first response is usually, that sounds terrible. I don't want to do it. So this is why I can teach how to be brave, how to go from really poor to being a global executive who is really financially supportive, right? There are three parts to it. There's clarity, knowing what you want. There's momentum, making the plan to get there. There's accountability, actually following through to become the person you want to become with what you want. So we did exactly this today for just the interest interview. We got real clear about what they are and why they matter. Then we went into momentum. We made the plan that you can now build momentum to execute. We got real granular. And then accountability is when you actually follow through. I'll be real honest with you, most of us do not follow through. Because in the center of all of that overlap is your goal. Short-term career, short-term job, mid-term career growth, or just growing as a person, right? So one of the ways that you can build your brave is you can actually work with me. These are the three clients who have publicly spoken on my podcast recently. All of them had significant growth in their careers. All of them changed jobs. All of them reset their lifestyle. And all of them say the largest framework that they utilize beyond the mindset is the interest interview. So if you want to hear their conversations, they're all on the Celebrate Brave podcast. They're all earning a lot more money now, and they're all working less. All right. So Ashley, Ginny, and Jackie. Coaching with me, y'all, I don't play. People do not come to coach with me to have nice conversations. You get exponential results, and the word guaranteed is down there, and I really do mean that. I really mean that. If it's not working out, we solve it together. It's 18 sessions, one-on-one. You have at least 6 group sessions over that time. There's ongoing Slack, ad hoc support. And then you also have workbooks. You have one tiny little slice of it, as well as an additional materials. The group recordings that we do are available to people. I make additional videos based on requests. For example, I've just made 4 about LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn. And then we're going to design your goal. We're going to build you a specific plan. We do not do cookie cutters in here. That's not how you're successful to your new unique goal. Everybody's plan is specific. And we're going to work on your mindset, your habits. Habits are huge, right? How you believe yourself or not. And there's a ton of skill growth. Okay. The promise I make my clients is you'll be less stressed. You will work less. You're going to spend more time in your actual life, doing things you like, having a hobby, maybe getting some sleep, and you earn more. And it's in that order. Working with me costs $6,000. I have 4 spots available right now to get started in April. I start everybody on a rolling month start. All right, that is how you can continue. An email is coming into your box with all of this information, the link to schedule your consultation, but you're also super welcome to ask me questions. Okay. All right, Q&A. Let's open it up. Thank you so much. You mentioned you had some tips for how to use LinkedIn to initiate interest interviews. Absolutely. Okay. So LinkedIn is amazing and you do not need to pay for it. You can pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. Okay. If you notice, I do not have premium and I run a business, so you don't have to, but you can. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to identify job functions, industries, or employers. You're going to go into LinkedIn and you're going to do a quick search. Or you can go over hashtags. Like, for example, if you want to, I don't know, be a woman in tech, you can write hashtag women in tech. You're going to see what conversations are happening on that hashtag. You're going to see who popped up. And then you're going to check out their profile and follow them. If there's something really specific, like let's say that you have a volunteer thing for animals and they have a volunteer thing for animals, and you've seen that they post about animals, at that point, you can totally connect to them and say, hey, your profile came up, or I saw your post. I love volunteering for animals. I do it in Ottawa. You do it in South Africa. I would just love to make sure that I see more of your content, right? And you can connect to them. If you don't have that level, follow them and see what they're posting. And when you see something that is of interest, you can actually ask to connect with them, and you can follow that framework that I gave you, right? To ask to connect, okay? Right? No, that is how to do it. Let me get back there. Right here. Create the hook for connection. Hi, Nicole. I don't want to show an actual message that I got that was really great, but one I just got recently was like, hey, Nicole, I see that you went to school in Pittsburgh. I went to school in Philly. So it started off a little rough, but it took a turn. So I went to school in Philly, and I see that you lived in Germany for a really long time. I just got an offer to move to Germany. I'm wondering if you'd be open to talk to me about being an American expat or an American immigrant in Germany. Yes, yes, I would love to do that, right? Because they took time to see who I am. They told me why, and they're not asking me for a job. They're not asking me for free consultation. They're asking me to share my lived experience and my knowledge and my insight. Let's go. Right? Like, that's interesting. People want to help. If this feels really overwhelming, start in person. Start with people you talked to 2 years ago or you worked with 2 years ago. Build that self-confidence. Okay. Remember, interest interviews are one-on-one. These are intimate, informal conversations. Sorry, not intimate, one-on-one, informal conversations. Don't know where intimate came from. Oh, thanks so much for coming. I hope you have a wonderful day. All right. If I am meeting a recruiter or someone from my dream company at a networking event and I really need a job, then how do I make it natural exchange and not just one way? Be honest. This is going to sound really weird, but I swear it works. Okay. I always wanted to work at PwC. I never got the chance. I turned it down when I had the chance. But every time I met someone from PwC, I said, I have always wanted to work at PwC. I've actually applied to work with you guys a couple of times. Would you be open to have just a short conversation? I'd love to hear how it is inside of PwC right now. Right? Or another way, and you said you're at a networking event, you're meeting a recruiter or someone at your dream company, right? Show up as you are, right? Say, oh, I have really been hoping. This actually happened to me when I was traveling for work, and I was in a really big city. I think I was in Prague. Maybe it was Bratislava. I don't know. And I was waiting. I was eating by myself because I love eating by myself. I think it's one of the most luxurious things in the world. And I don't know, I got into this conversation with somebody in English, and I said, oh yeah, I work at SAP. And the guy was like, wow, I have been hoping to meet someone who works at SAP. And I was like, wow, okay. Why? Right? Suddenly we're in this conversation. He was open to me. I'm curious, right? Because it wasn't like, oh, I really want to work at SAP. Can you help me get a job? It wasn't like that at all. I was like, wow, I've been really hoping to meet someone from SAP. Go, okay, that's interesting, right? You can just tell someone, I don't know, maybe it's a middle-sized company, right? Like, oh, wow, Infotan, that is like my dream company. I love what you're doing in the world. And then ask them a question, right? Like, ask them a question. What got you there? I hope that I answered that question. Um, Actually, what just came into me when I was saying, I hope I answered that, is the number one thing that you can do. And this is why I think coaching is really powerful. This is why I know coaching is really powerful, is address your mindset. So before you even go to that networking event, I highly recommend that you build the feeling of curiosity inside of you and you set an outcome that you can actually control, right? So you can't control if you get a job lead from an interest interview or from a networking event, but you can decide, I'm going to leave this session knowing I stayed in curiosity and I was open about who I am. Bam. People are going to flock to you. Oh, it was lovely meeting you too. It was lovely meeting you too. Thanks for attending. Okay, good. I'm really glad I answered that question. I know that this is uncomfortable. That's why I call myself the International Bravery Coach, right? It can feel really uncomfortable. And I acknowledge that, right? This is not something that we were taught from the very beginning. We were actually taught the opposite. Hide who you are, fit into the box. Make sure your resume looks this way. Don't say that. Don't say that. Be this, right? That doesn't work. It does not work. It will work for a little while, and then your stress is super high. You're not sleeping well. Your job performance is going down. Your partner says you travel too much. Okay, I'm telling you my story, right? There were a period in my life where I was working literally all the time. It was before Blackberries, because I am that old. So I didn't even count flight time. I was a global consultant. My performance tanked. I didn't have a network. I was constantly on the road. I didn't like myself. I was super skinny. It was ridiculous. And then my partner was like, I can't do this. Right? I know it feels uncomfortable. That's your brave. It's so you're brave. And this is why I talk about being brave, because this is not stuff that I would naturally do. I learned how to do this. It's a skill and you can do it too. And I would love to help people with this. This is something I'm very passionate about, is people being who they truly are. You are here. You are here as you. And when you shove yourself into somebody's drawer so that you can kind of, one of my clients said to me recently, your salary is just the company's monthly subscription to you. They can cancel their subscription whenever they want. It's like Stitch Fit. That was really powerful for me because they can. And the reality is, and, I already said it once, but I'm going to say it again. One of the things that these layoffs have shown us is it doesn't matter your performance. It doesn't matter your expertise. It doesn't matter your length of service. Okay. I'm so glad that so many of you are sending me really lovely messages. This is great. Does anyone, thank you for letting me know that this was amazing. I'm seeing very helpful, that you really appreciated. I will have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for asking. We're going into spring break. This is definitely a change. I'm going to need practice with this. Absolutely, right? Absolutely. I need practice with this, right? Does anyone have any other questions, comments, pushback? Oh, thank you. I'm really glad that it was inspiring. You're amazing. This session was so informative. I'm really glad. Oh my God, I visited SAP in Berlin 2021. Oh, you went to the coolest office. You hadn't heard of them prior and didn't hear about them. So it's so cool. I love Berlin. I want to go back. Girl, I didn't live in Berlin, so I'm a little jealous. I lived in Heidelberg. I worked at the headquarters. 2017. Oh, I think I was still, yeah, I was still working there. That's so fun. I'm glad that you had that experience. Super helpful tips, great reminders. I'm really glad. I'm so glad that you guys had a wonderful experience. All right, really helpful. Translate this. Yeah, see how you can translate this into action. Absolutely. When you're ready, and you are ready to translate this into action, and you want a partner and you want an expert who does this with women all over the world, schedule your consultation. The link is in your email. I would be so excited to explore being your coach and seeing you thrive and continue to create in a non-hierarchical fashion, continue to create your impact so that you stress a lot less, you work less, you live more. And yes, we love money around here. So we want you to also earn more. Alrighty, that is our time for today. Thank you so much for coming. I want to hear from you. Hit reply, schedule your consultation, and I will see you next month is another webinar. So I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.